This is my first video update coming to you from Athens, Greece. Let's talk about some news on this Wednesday. And the big story is the missile strike in Poland. And let me start things off by reading a quote from Ukraine President Elenksy right after we got the news that a missile had indeed hit Polish territory. It hit this farm area, this farmland, and there were 2 civilian casualties. This is what Elenksy said. Quote, "How many times has Ukraine said that the terrorist state of Russia will not be limited to our country? It is only a matter of time before Russian terror goes further. The Russian terror is not limited to our national borders." And then Elenksy went on to say that today, Russian Federation missiles hit Poland directly. This is a very significant escalation, and we must act now. We must act now. Who is we? When Elenksy means we, does he mean Ukraine? Does he mean we as in Ukraine and Poland? Or does he mean we as in Ukraine and NATO? Is Elenksy actually calling on NATO to start World War III? Is that what he's talking about? Is he talking about NATO retaliating against Russia because a missile hit farmland? Is that what Elenksy is calling for? Because a couple of hours later, after these statements from Elenksy and after we got some photo and video evidence, everyone, and I mean everyone, took a look at the fragments of this missile. They all came to the same conclusion, that this was not a Russian missile, that this was actually a Ukraine S-300. This was Ukrainian air defense. And that is what hit this farmland in Poland. That is what killed these 2 civilians. And this was not an attack by Russia on Poland. This was an attack by Ukraine on Poland. So, going off of the words of Elenksy, this is a very significant escalation, and we must act now. We must act now. NATO must act against this serious escalation that Ukraine made towards a NATO member, Poland. Article 5. Anyone want to invoke Article 5? Does anyone in NATO want to say that Ukraine attacked a NATO member? Anyone? Anyone in NATO? Do I hear anyone saying that Ukraine attacked a NATO member? No? No one? Because when everyone thought it was Russia, they were foaming at the mouth. All of NATO was foaming at the mouth. Estonia tweeted that they stand by all NATO allies and they are ready to defend every inch of NATO territory. Estonia is ready to defend every inch of NATO territory. You mean the United States is ready to defend every inch of NATO territory? That's what Estonia means when they say that. But Stoltenberg was calling NATO allies. This is serious. It's very serious. He was calling all the NATO allies to make sure that they have unity, that they're all united in their next steps against Russia. The Polish prime minister, Polish president, they called meetings of the security of their security team and their security council, and they discussed what's going to happen. What do we do next? Time to invoke Article 4. Time to get all the NATO members together so we can consult on our next steps to retaliate against Russia. What do we do next? No-fly zone. We have to impose a no-fly zone. Or no, maybe NATO gets involved in Ukraine. Maybe they jump into the conflict. That's what they do. What do they do? What are the next steps? That's what Poland was talking about. That's what all the NATO members were brought together to discuss. And what did Scholz tell Erdogan as they were discussing the next steps? Well, Scholz told Erdogan, he said to the Turkish president, he said, look, our intelligence, from what I gather, this was a Ukrainian S-300. That's what it looks like. And the line that we're going to go with is it looks like there was a technical glitch with this Ukraine missile. That's what Olaf Scholz told Erdogan. And Erdogan said, okay, Olaf, gotcha. Technical glitch, is that what we're going to go with? Gotcha. So it wasn't Russia. wasn't Russia. Tayyip, it was not Russia. But we can't put the blame on Ukraine because, we'll end up looking really stupid because we were calling for war. Just an hour ago, we were calling for conflict with Russia, and we were blaming Russia, and we got our mainstream media lapdogs to claim that this was a Russian missile. So just say technical glitch. That's what we're going to go with. And then in the next couple of days, we'll just memory hold this entire story. Okay, Tayyip? And Erdogan said, gotcha, Olaf. And then Erdogan makes a statement to the press. He gives a statement to the press, and he says, I was just talking to Olaf Scholz, and he told me that this was not Russia, and this was a Ukraine missile, and they're blaming technical glitches, technical difficulties with this Ukraine missile. Have a great day, media. That was what Erdogan actually did. Yeah. So even Biden let all of the NATO and G7 allies know that this was not Russia. He informed them that the explosion in Poland was due to Ukrainian air defense. So even Bidenopolis had to admit that this was Ukraine's fault and not Russia's fault. The president of Poland, Duda, well, he called the incident an accident, and I quote, an accident, with no signs of an attack from Russia. He also recognized the high probability that the missile that fell on the territory of Poland belonged to the air defense of Ukraine. And he stated that he had no evidence that the fallen rocket was fired by the Russian military. The high probability, they just can't bring themselves to admit that Ukraine attacked Poland by mistake. Probably, most likely. It doesn't look like this was a false flag. It looks like this was just more of a Ukrainian S-300 air defense incompetence than anything else. They don't want to admit that their air defense is incompetent and is not working because they can't do that, especially after after the collective West gave Ukraine a whole ton of air defense systems. It would be very embarrassing for them to now say that Ukraine is still having trouble with its air defense, even though they are. And the Russians proved that yesterday as well, because they hit Ukraine hard, every city. Kharkov, Kiev, Odessa, Lviv. There was not one target that the Russians couldn't hit with missiles and drones. But the one target that the Russians didn't go after was this area. This area was the area that Ukraine accidentally hit. And the collective West, they can't bring themselves to say that Ukrainian air defense is in shambles and that this was not a high probability of a Ukrainian missile. Mr. Duda, this was a Ukrainian missile that hit Poland. Poland attacked a NATO member. By accident, most likely by accident, but they hit a NATO member. Incompetence? Absolutely, incompetence. A problem with Ukraine air defense that the collective West cannot fix? Oh yeah, they've got a big problem with air defense in Ukraine. I mean, a big problem. Maria Zakharova, she decided to jump into the fray and mock Elenksy and his statements. And she said this: Elenksy sits in a bunker and cannot understand why his version about a Russian missile in Poland was dismissed, even by the worst of Russophobes. This is what she wrote on Telegram. The president, she added, should realize that his job is to do the dirty work and not tell bosses what they should do. And that is from Maria Zakharova. That is what she wrote on social media. Yeah, she's exactly right. Your job, Elenksy, is not to say, we must act now. That's not your job. Your job is to take orders, not give orders. That's for sure. Boy, did Maria Zakharova really lay into Elenksy, but boy, did Elenksy look really dumb. A lot of people looked really dumb yesterday, and really scary, to be quite honest. If there's one lesson that we can take from all of this, it is that we have got some major warmongers in the collective West. I mean, just thirsty, foaming at the mouth warmongers in the collective West. And they were excited, I mean, giddy at the fact that they might have finally gotten the World War III that they have been pushing for. And boy, must they be disappointed now that this was actually Ukraine and not Russia that hit Poland, because Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Elenksy, all of the Ukraine regime, all of the Elenksy regime, many officials in Poland, the collective West mainstream media, Stoltenberg, all of these people were just like, this is it. We need Article 5. Let's go to war. Let's do this. No fly zone over Ukraine. Let's send NATO troops in. This is it. This is it. I mean, it was just, that's the scary part about all of this, is that they are waiting. All these people are waiting for this, for the smallest, the slightest of Russian mistakes, or just the slightest hint of some sort of Article 5 trigger for them to start a massive conflict. They're waiting for it. And that's what this showed us. But, I remember when the United States assassinated Soleimani, who was actually, I believe, on a diplomatic mission for Iran. They assassinated him, and that was a very tense situation, but no World War III. I remember when Turkey shot down the Russian fighter jet in like 2017 or 18, and that was a very tense situation, but no World War III. And those were much more serious than, and I don't want to lessen the civilian life that was lost, because 2 people did die at the hands of a Ukraine S-300. And that's a tragedy, a mistake, an accident, and that is a tragedy. And that is the Ukraine military's incompetence in dealing with these air defense systems and handling these air defense systems, which I imagine NATO now might use that as an excuse to get more NATO soldiers into Ukraine so that they can handle Ukraine's air defense, if they're not already. But I imagine they're going to capitalize on this to push more, to feed more NATO military into Ukraine. But either way, the incidents that happened with the fighter pilot, the Russian fighter pilot that was shot down by Turkey, or Soleimani, or other things that have happened in the past that could have pushed the world to war, were much more serious than farmland getting hit in Poland, because farmland is not, we're not talking about critical infrastructure. This is not a prime target. So obviously, this must have been a mistake. Why would anyone hit farmland in Poland? Doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense at all. So when you took a step back, it was clear that wherever this missile came from, whether it was Ukraine or Russia or anywhere, it doesn't matter, that something was wrong. This was not an attack against Poland. It just didn't add up. And even if it was a Russian missile that had somehow veered off course or something happened, that's no reason to invoke Article 5 or to go to World War III or something like that. You don't call World War III for a missile that hits a farm territory. You just don't do it. There's an investigation. The Russian authorities are invited to the investigation. Everyone looks at what happened, and you come to a conclusion. If it's Russia, then Russia apologizes. If it's Ukraine, then Ukraine apologizes. We know now that it's Ukraine, but I'm just saying, even if this was Russia, that's no cause for Article 5. But there are so many people in leadership in the collective West that are just waiting for the opportunity for some sort of Article 5 scenario. And that is very, very scary. Even Germany has come out and they have said there is no chance we're going to have a no-fly zone. No plans for a no-fly zone. This is according to Germany. It's not going to happen. A retaliation for something that Russia didn't do, not going to happen. More NATO troops into Ukraine? Probably, yeah, I can see that. I can see them leveraging this to put more NATO military into Ukraine, most likely to operate these air defense systems. I can definitely see more air defense systems being delivered to Ukraine. That I can definitely see. More money to Ukraine, absolutely. Biden took the opportunity when all this was going down to request another $37 billion from Congress to go to Ukraine, and he's going to get that $37 billion. That would bring the total amount of U.S. money to Ukraine to something around $97 billion. If you go by, what is it, 60 billion, 50, 60 billion, another 37 billion. Let's just call it 100 billion to Ukraine if they get this next, if they get this 37 billion request from Biden through. And then, of course, you're not counting all the FTX money. That could be another 100 billion. Who knows what money FTX was funneling around in there. Not that we'll ever find out. But yeah, you know, they're gonna definitely use this. The warmongers, they're going to use this to somehow pump more money or more weapons into Ukraine, to do something to leverage their position in Ukraine. That's a given. But that is the missile story in with regards to Poland. It was Ukraine that did it, and it was Ukraine that almost brought us to World War III and the reckless statements from Elenksy and from people in Estonia, Lithuania, and Latvia, the leaders there that were calling for war right away without waiting for the evidence is the real lesson here. That is the scary part. They don't wait. They don't even wait 3-4 hours, because 3 hours after this incident, not even 2 hours after this incident, it started to become clear that this was not a Russian missile. And the Russian Ministry of Defense was very quick to come out and say this wasn't us. It wasn't us. They were definitive in their statement. So the leaders in the collective West, the right thing for them to have done was to wait. Give it a day. Give it more than a day. Let's see what's going on. Obviously, we're not under attack because this was in some farm territory. So obviously this is not an attack on critical infrastructure. It's obviously a mistake, but give it a day and let's see which side made this mistake. But nope, they jumped on the war train right away. War, 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 attack, attack. We have to get Russia. What did Estonia say? We're going to fight for every inch of NATO territory, every inch. And I don't know if you saw the photo of the leaders sitting at the table. Let me put it up on the screen right now. After the news broke with this missile, the G7 leaders at the G20 summit, all the G7 leaders got together, including Van der Crazy, the Pirate of Brussels, and Michel, the other EU leader that no one really pays any attention to. Anyway, they all got together and they took a group photo to show how serious they were, to show their resolve. They love that word, their resolve against Russian aggression, right? Biden sitting in the middle, Sunak to his right or his left, depending on which way you're looking at it. Trudeau to his right, to his left, depending on which way you're looking at the photo. Those two gentlemen are sitting right next to Biden. Biden's chief lieutenants, Trudeau and Sunak, right there by his side. And you have Ursula at one end of the table, Michel at the other end. You have Schultz somewhere in the background, and a very concerned Macron. And all of these G7 leaders are showing their resolve and their strength amidst Russian aggression, Russian terror, which just happened to turn out to be Ukraine aggression and Ukraine terror. And now that we know it's Ukraine terror, well, it's just an accident. It's just an accident. As Duda, the president of Poland, says, it's an accident. Nothing to see here. Just an accident. That's it. Let's move on now. That is the story with this missile. We had the Russian military just go full on yesterday in Ukraine, and actually today they continue to hit Ukraine with missiles and drones. As I said earlier in my video, Ukraine air defense is absolutely helpless. They have no answer for the Russian missiles and the Russian drones. no answer. And as a matter of fact, it's worse than no answer. Their answer is so bad that they're actually hitting NATO territory. So that is the big news for yesterday. The other big story, which is a massive story, not related to Ukraine or Poland or NATO, at least not directly related. Maybe in 2024, it'll be related to these stories, is that Trump announced yesterday that he will be running for president of the United States. And he gave a good speech, I would say, actually. He gave a good speech yesterday where he was very calm. He didn't take any digs at anybody. He just kind of reminded the American people how things were under his presidency and how things are going under Joe Biden. And he threw his hat in the ring. So Trump will be running for president of the United States in 2024. And this is going to give us a lot of material going forward, that's for sure. We are going to have a lot to talk about with regards to another Trump go at the presidency. That is for sure. That is going to take up a lot of oxygen in the news cycle. So that was the other very, very big story. But all in all, I listened to his announcement, and I thought it was a very good Trump speech. It was the right tone and tempo, and yeah, I think he said the right things, and he was very, very calm, no gaffes, no slip-ups, and the content of the speech was also quite good, where he kind of compared how things were when he was president and how things are now under Biden. So that was the other big news story for yesterday. Let's do a clown world and we can wrap this video up. And in this clown world, we head back to the G20 and we see a very interesting interaction between the Chinese President Xi Jinping and Justin Trudeau. And from what I understand, the Chinese president was very upset with Trudeau because Trudeau had leaked some private conversation between the two gentlemen, and he had leaked it inaccurately to the media. And so it looks like Xi Jinping is really schooling Trudeau, and Trudeau kind of walks off in shame. So let's take a look at the video, and I will end this video with the clown world, the Duran.locals.com. We are also on Rockfin. Duran shop, 10%, use the code Good Day. Take care.
Everything we discussed is then leaked to the paper. That's not appropriate. And that's not how the way the conversation was conducted. If there is sincerity on your part,
free and open and frank dialogue, and that is what we will continue to have. We will continue to look to work constructively together, but there will be things we will disagree on, and we will have to continue.
Let's create the conditions first.
Where was Sean?